Good evening, my dear student friends. This year, you have all stepped into the 8th class. So, the first chapter in the 8th class in history is sources, ಆಧಾರಗಳು, sources. In this lesson or chapter, you are going to learn sources required necessary to the study of history, types of sources of history, importance of the archaeological sources, importance of the inscriptions. Inscriptions means shasanagalu. Importance of oral sources in history. Oral sources means ಮೌಖಿಕ ಆಧಾರಗಳು. So we are going to study all these five aspects in this chapter. Now let's we see. So in this chapter, the PPT has prepared in such a manner that along with sentences, beautiful pictures are there. If you see pictures, pictures are sometimes more powerful than words. You get good idea regarding this chapter. Let's move to the next part. Introduction. History is a systematic study of the past. History is written on the basis of sources. Sources are very important. ಆಧಾರಗಳು are very important for construction of history. For systematic study of past, for construction of history, ಆಧಾರಗಳು sources are very important. Hence, ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ there is no source, no history is the stance of history. If there are no sources, there is no history. ಆಧಾರಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸ ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. So, historian is like an advocate. Historians are there, no? ಇತಿಹಾಸಕಾರರು. They are just like lawyers. They are just like advocate. ಸೊ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿಗಳಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ವಿವಾದಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಿಲ್ವೋ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ historians do not do anything without sources. Sources are very important. Historian is like an advocate. The advocates present their arguments on the basis of followed evidences and sources related to their case. Similarly, historians collect the sources, subject them to critical examination, analysis, then write the history. So when historians are writing history, first they collect all the sources, ಆಧಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಸಂಗ್ರಹ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನೇಷನ್, ಅವುಗಳನ್ನು ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅನಲೈಸಸ್, ವಿಶ್ಲೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತಾರೆ. ದೆನ್ ರೈಟ್ ದ ಹಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇತಿಹಾಸಕಾರರು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಸ್. ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ sources, second one examination, third one analysis, then write the history. Historians are just like advocates. For advocates, witnesses, evidences are very important. In the same manner, for historians, for writing history, sources are very important. Now let's we see meaning of sources. What are sources? What do you mean by source? Human beings had created many facilities to lead their life since ancient times. When human life started on the earth, all the human beings, they had created so many facilities for their comfortable. So all the facilities, all the comfortables which were made by human beings to lead their life since ancient times, still they are remained under the earth, on the earth, in a dilapidated ಫಾರ್ಮ್, ಅಳಿದುಳಿದ ಅವಶೇಷಗಳ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂದೆ ಜನರು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸಿದ ಅಂಶಗಳು ನಮಗೆ ಆಧಾರಗಳು ದೊರೀತಾವೆ. ಅವುಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ ನಾವು ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಬೀಯಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ ಮೆನಿ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಕಂಫರ್ಟೇಬಲ್ಸ್ ಟು ಲೀಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಸಿನ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್. ದೋಸ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ created by the human beings, they are the sources. So hence the agriculture tools left by the earlier people, forts, some kings constructed forts, some people who were living in those days, they were found some agriculture tools, and the coins which were used by past people, inscriptions, ಶಾಸನಗಳು, coins, ನಾಣ್ಯಗಳು, arms, ಯುದ್ಧ ಸಲಕರಣೆಗಳು, temples and other religious buildings. These are considered as sources to write history. For writing history, these are very important. So inscriptions, arms, temples and other religious buildings. So you see, coins are there in the picture. Coins are there in the picture, and some ornaments which were used by past people, they are also there, and different types of aspects are there. One stamba is there. So all these things explain the past glory, the past lifestyle of the people. That's why these things are very important. These are called sources. So these are considered as sources to write history. Meaning of sources. Similarly, written documents and literary works are the main source of history. Some written documents are there, literary works are there. These are also main source of history. The materials needed for writing of history are primary sources. The materials which are necessary, needed for writing the history, these are called primary sources. These sources can be divided into two parts. Okay, so what you see in the picture, coins are there, some tale garis are there, on that something is written, an inscription is there, ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೆತ್ತಿದ ಶಾಸನಗಳು are there, and some buildings are there. Okay, buildings are there, stambas are there, coins are there. So what are these? These are all called sources. These sources are divided into two types. So sources of the history are divided into two types. First one is literary sources, ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯಿಕ ಆಧಾರಗಳು, ಬರ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿರುವವು ಲಿಟರರಿ ಸೋರ್ಸಸ್, ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯಿಕ ಆಧಾರಗಳು. ದೆನ್ ಆರ್ಕಿಯಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಸೋರ್ಸಸ್, ವಾಸ್ತುಶಿಲ್ಪಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟಂಥ ಆಧಾರಗಳು. ಅಗೇನ್ this sources division two types has subdivided into many parts. In literary sources, again we divide these literary sources into written literature and oral literature. In ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ ಆಧಾರಗಳು, ಬರಹ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಆಧಾರಗಳು, ಮೌಖಿಕ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯಿಕ ಆಧಾರಗಳು. ಅಗೇನ್ written literature is divided into native literature, foreign literature. ಸ್ವದೇಶೀಯ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ, ವಿದೇಶಿ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ. In oral literature, ಲಾವಣೀಸ್ are there, folk tales are there, historical legendary are there. historic legendary are there. ಐತಿಹಾಸಿಕ ದಂತಕಥೆಗಳಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಜಾನಪದ ಕಥೆಗಳಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಲಾವಣಿ ಪದಗಳಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಓರಲ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್ಗೆ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗಳು. ದೆನ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್. ಇನ್ ರಿಟನ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್ two types are there. One is native literature and the other one is foreign literature. So let's come to this side, archaeological sources. ವಾಸ್ತುಶಿಲ್ಪದ ಆಧಾರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊನ್ಯುಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಟ್ಟಡಗಳು, ಕಾಯಿನ್ಸ್, ನಾಣ್ಯಗಳು, ಇನ್ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಶಾಸನಗಳು, ಅದರ್ ಆರ್ಕಿಯಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ರಿಮೇನ್ಸ್, ಅಳಿದುಳಿದ ಅನೇಕ ವಾಸ್ತುಶಿಲ್ಪಗಳು. So these are the different types of sources which help a historian to write history. So now let's we go to the one by one. First one, written literature. Written literature. So some books are here. Mudra Rakshasa of Vishakhapatnam is there. Vishakha Datta is there. Then Gata Saptasadi is there. It is in Prakrita language. Kautilya's Arthashastra is there. Then Kallana's Rajatarangini is there. Firoz Shahi is there. So these are all written by These are written by some foreign visitors to our country or our native literary people or our native literature. You say written literature is the main source of literary sources. Okay, so literature can bring the contemporary social life of contemporary means ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದ social life of the times of the writer alive to us. ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದ ಸಮಕಾಲೀನ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಇದ್ದ ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಈ ಗ್ರಂಥಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಾರೆ. To give example, so the books are there in the picture. So written literature is the main source of literary sources. So literature can bring the contemporary samajika jivana, social life of the times of writer alive to us. Next, you see, a literary work portrays means gives idea. A literary work gives idea. The literary work explains the then agina kalada, the then existing aspects of life either directly or indirectly. Literary works portrays, explains, gives idea, exhibits the the then existing aspects of life either directly or indirectly. In literature, as I told you, two types are there: native literature and foreign literature. Now let's we see native literature, the literature created by Indians in a native language. Created by Indians in a native language, ಸ್ಥಳೀಯ ಭಾಷೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತೀಯರೇ ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯ. ಸೊ ಇವುಗಳಿಗೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರೀತಾರ? ನೇಟಿವ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್. ದ ನೇಟಿವ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್ created by Indians in native languages is called as the native literature. Literary works in Sanskrit, Prakrit, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Hindi, Marathi, Kashmiri, Gujarati, Oriya, and in many other native languages. So written literature examples. For written literature in native literature examples are Kautilya's Arthashastra. Kautilya is a native writer. Arthashastra is a native literature. ಕೌಟಿಲ್ಯ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದವರೇ. ಅವರು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದು ಅರ್ಥಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದ್ದೇ. ಕಿಂಗ್ ಹಾಲಾಸ್ ಗಾಥಾ ಸಪ್ತಸತಿ, ವಿಶಾಖ ದತ್ತಾಸ್ ಮುದ್ರಾ ರಾಕ್ಷಸ, ಕಲ್ಲಣಾಸ್ ರಾಜತರಂಗಿನಿ, ಬಾನಭಟ್ಟಾಸ್ ಹರ್ಷಚರಿತ, ಚಾಂದ್ ಬರ್ದಾಯಿಸ್ ಪೃಥ್ವಿರಾಜರಾಸೋ, ಪಂಪಾಸ್ ವಿಕ್ರಮಾರ್ಜುನ ವಿಜಯ, ಸಂಗಮ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್. Okay, so these are giving complete history of that contemporary life, personal life, social life, economic life, political life, education of that period. So now let's go to in literature, the next part, foreign literature. So many foreigners who visited India as a travelers, as ambassadors, ರಾಯಭಾರಿಗಳಾಗಿ, ಯಾತ್ರಿಕರಾಗಿ, ವ್ಯವಹಾರಕ್ಕಾಗಿ, ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಾಗಿ, ಧರ್ಮ ಪ್ರಚಾರಕರಾಗಿ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಮೆನಿ ಫಾರಿನರ್ಸ್ visited India as travelers, as ambassadors, businessmen, officials, and missionaries. They have recorded their observations. When they visited India at that time, they wrote down all the observations and experiences in their books. These works are called foreign literature. To give examples for foreign literature are Megasthenes Indica, Phaeon's Go Gokoki, Huen's Thanks, Siyuki, Ptolemy's Geography, Feristas Tariq e Ferista, Babur's Tujki e Babri. So these are the examples for foreign literature. Okay, so I will continue the next part, that is regarding this written literature only, in the next class.